Há pessoas que nos inspiram, há aquelas que nos divertem e há outras que são muito boas naquilo que fazem. Aquelas que conseguem as três são convidados no A Conversa com. Ora, muito bem-vindos ao A Cumbersa com, o único programa, o único podcast com vários erros gramaticais no título, só para termos a certeza que foi de certeza, exatamente. E hoje estamos à conversa com o Ben Dziwulski. Eu vou ter esta conversa em inglês, este vai ser o segundo podcast que nós vamos fazer em inglês. O Ben, neste momento, não está a perceber absolutamente nnada do que eu estou a dizer, mas está a sorrir como se estivesse a compreender tudo. E eu já vou traduzir esta parte em inglês para ele também. E, portanto, a ideia é termos aqui uma conversa. Para quem não conhece o Ben vai ficar a conhecer, mas ele é a mente por trás do World Prep Academy e dos vídeos do World Prep. Portanto, quem está de alguma forma ligado aqui ao CrossFit de uma maneira ou de outra, já ouviu falar do Ben, já viu os vídeos dele, de certeza, já viu os vídeos dele, especialmente na altura do CrossFit Open, e portanto vamos ter aqui uma conversa com certeza divertida. So Ben, hi, welcome to the show.
I'm
And
happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
yeah, thank you. I was just saying that you were not understanding a word I was saying, but you were looking really, really focused, like you were understanding everything that I was saying. So
Yeah, I don't speak a single word of Portuguese, but I wish I spoke more languages. I know thank you in a lot of different languages from all the
okay,
travels that I've gone on, but
yeah,
but I have not been to Portugal yet.
yeah.
So one day I'll have to make it out there.
Yeah, and do you have any? I know that the Brazilian community in CrossFit is bigger and bigger every year. So, do you have any athletes that you encountered from Brazil? Have you been to in the CrossFit Games or something like that?
Definitely, there's we've had we have people who purchase WOD prep stuff, like our athletes and customers
Yeah,
from all over the world. In fact, when I first started growing WOD prep, I actually like had this brilliant idea to basically get everything that we did translated. So I
yeah,
had like, WOD prep in Italian, I had WOD prep in Spanish, I had WOD prep in Portuguese, and I had a lot of those videos, especially the Portuguese ones, really they got a lot of traction. They got a lot of engagement and a lot of, even though I had no idea what the translation was, was hiring people to basically take my videos, translate them, and
yeah,
then we release them on a separate account.
yeah. And
It
it was voiceover or subtitles?
I think it depended on the video. I think we had some that were voiceovers, a lot of our videos are just kind of like, visual videos that have like
Yeah,
text on the screen.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we just would translate that. And then it just winded up being it was like trying to run like four different companies at once rather than just one. And we're like, you know what, we're just going to focus on English for now
Yeah.
and try to get that going. But yeah, we definitely have a pretty diverse following that luckily a lot of people understand English, especially in like the CrossFit space. So just focusing on English was a lot easier for me because I could handle it and manage it and understand what people were saying in the comments. But there's definitely a large following that whether it's from Brazil or in Portugal that follow WOD prep. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely
There,
appreciative of that.
there's a real shortage, not now, of course, but especially in the early years, a real shortage of videos not being in English. And
Hmm.
although in Portugal we have we are a very touristic oriented country, so
Hmm.
there's a lot of people that speak English from an early age. We learn English in school, is one of our mandatory foreign languages to learn. Everybody learns, has like 4 years of English at least in school, so everybody kind of dominates the basic of a conversation. And but there was a real shortage of videos like in Portuguese. Now that the sport is really bigger in Brazil, it's of course they take over the space.
Yes, yes, they did. Yep, and that's what we identified early on was there was a big shortage,
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, I can probably fill that." But it was like so early on in the company's, I guess, journey.
yeah,
And I just kind of made the decision where it's like, it's definitely harder to try to create something and then get every piece of it translated to multiple languages. And it was hard. It was hard to manage. So I was just like, you know what, we'll focus on English. That'll still attract a lot of these you know, foreign or, you know, non-English speaking
Yeah,
people who could speak or English as a second language people
yeah.
that were, you know, interested in CrossFit, and we were still attracting a lot of them. And I think it was the right call. But definitely, that's always something in the back of my mind is it would be really cool to try to get all of our stuff translated, including like our
Yeah.
paid products and courses and stuff like that. It's just an undertaking where it's like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is it worth
Yeah.
all of the effort and time to put into it? So we've just focused on English, and I'm sure that especially now, plenty of other creators have stepped in to fill, you know, the void in their specific language.
Yeah. One of the hardest things I think for an entrepreneur to do is to say no to ideas because, well, they start popping and everything seems like a winner. And do you find it easy to say no to projects, to ideas, to people coming with you? Because well, in the early days, it was probably not that much of people trying to pitch you anything, any idea. But right now you are a figure of reference when it comes to courses, to CrossFit, to training, to this functional fitness space. So do you feel like it's easy or hard to say no to ideas that you feel that are good but are going to shift your focus from the main purpose?
So early on in the entrepreneurial journey, it was very difficult to say no because especially me, I was an idea factory. Every day I'd have, you know, my journal filled up with all kinds of new ideas and let's try this product and let's do this. So it was very much like idea overwhelm, and it was hard for me to stay focused in the early days. But now that we've been running the company for over a decade, now it's very easy. Now I'm, you know, it's just like I say no to pretty much everything where it's like, nah, no, we have, because we have something, we found something that works, something that's predictable, something that we're good at. So anything that deviates from that, it takes a while for me to get on board. And it's funny because now usually it's people on my team. So it's people who work for WOD that come to me with an idea. And I always wait. I'm like, all right, how much work is this going to require from me? And they know that if it requires a lot of work for me to, you know, test out this new idea, it's probably going to be a no because it's usually not worth the effort or the time to change things up. However, if they come to me with an idea and they're like, "Hey, I want to try this. I want to do this. You don't have to do anything. Maybe just like promote it a little bit, but I want to, you know, take this idea and run with it." I always give my employees a very long leash for that. I'm like, "Yeah, hey, if you think this is a good idea, I'll let you try it. Especially if it doesn't require too much effort from and manpower from my, you know, from my side,
Yeah.
then we always tend to pursue those ideas. But yeah,
What
it's definitely way easier saying no than it used to be.
used to be, yeah. What do you think were the ones that got away? The ideas that you said no to, and then later you saw somebody doing that with massive success, and you said, "Well, I thought of this like 5 years ago," or something like that. Do you have any of those examples? Because
I'm
of course
sure I do. I'm trying to think.
it's of course we are never sure that it would be a success when we did it, but sometimes you feel like that. Come on, I thought about this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, just off the top of my head, a couple ideas that were probably acted on too late in the game were, so it took a while before we actually started releasing daily programming. So normally my
Yeah,
company was all about online courses. You know,
yeah,
basically I'd make these online courses, these video courses that taught people how to do a specific thing on the internet. It was like an online school for how to learn how to do CrossFit. And we did that for a very long time. And then one of my head coaches was like, "Hey man, like we should release daily programming. You know, everyone else has it." And I was like, "Nah, you know, that's not what we do. There's other people who are doing it fine. So why do we need to create one?"
yeah,
And eventually, reluctantly, I was like, "All right, okay, we can do that." This was, you know, at the urging of my head coach because he's like, "We need to release daily programming. We need to do this." And then finally, I did it, and or we launched it, and it's been really successful, and
Oh,
we have a lot of really loyal, followers of daily WOD prep programming. And I think that's probably one of many ideas where it's like, if I had started that from the get-go, if I had started that along with the online courses and did it
oh,
10 years ago instead of just a few years ago, we'd probably have a much bigger following, and we were probably going to be able to get in the door when a lot of people back in the heyday of CrossFit were trying to pick which program to follow. So we were
yeah,
probably a little late to the game on that. So that's one of, I'm sure, dozens of ideas
yeah,
where it's
yeah.
like, oh yeah, if I did that earlier, that would have been a better idea.
Mm. Okay, okay. So the way that I came into contact with you were through the open announcements videos where you explained the open strategy. Back in the day, it was just one video, not the video and the email and the strategy guide and
Hmm.
the ebook and the mental. So it was just one video that I'm sure that, like me, a lot of people were like refreshing your YouTube channel, waiting for
Yep.
now. I need to go do the workout. Where's my strategy?
Yep. Especially people in Europe, because a lot of times it was like,
Yeah,
we work really hard and there's a lot of editing. Basically a
yeah,
lot of stuff taking place to
yeah,
get that highly produced video done quickly.
yeah,
I could just take my phone and record a video, but it just wouldn't be
yeah,
the
yeah,
same
yeah.
quality. So, but there were so many people where it's just like they're waking up in Europe as, I'm going to bed over here in the US,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Where is it? I have to do this workout and your video isn't up yet." So
Yeah,
we've really focused the last couple of years on trying to still
very good.
release a really good video,
Yeah,
but making sure that we released it as quickly as possible, because the quicker you release it, the more traction it gets, and then the more
yeah,
people it helps. Because for every hour that you wait to release it, that's, probably a few thousand people doing the workout, and once they do the workout, they don't need the strategy as much. So that's something that it's definitely evolved over the years. And then, of course, like you said, we've added more layers where it's not, you don't just have the video. Now we have all these other stuff that when you sign up
yeah,
for the email list, you get access to. So it really creates, we try to really overload people with a lot of free value. And then the hope is they see how much value we give them, and then eventually they purchase something from us, after the open. So that's really the goal. That's the strategy there.
yeah. Well, do you compare your strategy videos with others online? Because my general feeling, is that yours is the go-to strategy video. Maybe because my web browser and the cookies keep feeding me your videos and
Yeah,
your stuff.
maybe.
Yeah, but I think yours is the one to go to. I used to watch Noah Olson also,
Mhm.
but then he stopped doing, like 2 or 3 years ago. He stopped making them. So what do you think that sets you apart from the other videos? What do you think that's making your success? Do you feel like like yours is the most viewed? I'm not sure if you keep track of those rankings or views or something like that.
Um, I used to be pretty obsessed when we were first, I'd say probably back in like 2016. I was
When did
really,
you
really,
start? When did you start?
I started, WOD Prep technically started in 2014. So
Okay.
it started, I think, the open of 2014 is when I
Okay.
released my first WOD Prep strategy guides,
Yeah.
and they were terrible, but I'd shoot the whole video in one take, and if I made one mistake, I'd delete it and shoot it again.
Yeah.
Um, so back in the early days, like 2015, 2016, when we started putting them on YouTube, because the first ones were just on Facebook. I didn't even have a YouTube channel. And when I started putting them on YouTube, I definitely was like obsessing over like, oh, who's beating us? Who's, are we the best? Are we the, highest viewed one? Now I don't really care about that anymore. I think, kind of like you said, a lot of people, when they think of WOD Prep, they're like, oh, yeah, you're the guy that does the strategy videos for the open, right? Like that's like our number one,
Yeah.
um, that's our number one like claim to fame. So I'd
Yeah. Yeah.
say we probably are one of the, if not the go-to for the average CrossFitter that just wants to get a good open score.
Yeah.
Our videos are probably near the top in terms of what they're looking for. And to answer your question, what sets us apart? I think the fact that the strategy guides that I make are for the average CrossFit gym goer. I don't, I'm not making strategy guides that like a lot of other companies will make a strategy guide and it's like, all right, let's say that there's 7 ring muscle ups. It's like, all right, yep. So 7 ring muscle ups, break those into 4 and 3, and then move on to the toes to bar and then move on,
Yeah.
and it's like probably 85% of the people watching are like, I can't even do a single muscle up, right?
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? So I think what sets us apart from a lot of the other strategy guides is a lot of the other strategy guides are created by elite athletes that have been to the CrossFit Games that are, they kind of like rush over the basics. So like, yeah, do this and do this, and you should have this pacing or break it up into this way. And most people are like, I can't even come close to that standard.
Yeah.
So usually when I'm making the videos, I'm making them with a much more beginner focused mind where I don't expect a semi-final level athlete to watch my videos. That would be silly because we're not trying to help you get the best score in the world on the open workout. That is a totally different strategy. What I'm trying to do is teach people how to get their best score. So I always gear all of my information towards the I would say the average gym goer, the average person going to a CrossFit gym. And most of those people are normally on the edge of RX and scaled, right? They're trying to RX every workout. And even if they do RX every workout, they probably can't do sets of 7 unbroken ring muscle ups, right? So they are videos that are much more geared towards the general population of CrossFitters. And I think a lot of people respect that. And a lot of people are like, oh, this is the only video that actually helped me with anything because I didn't assume that they could do 25 unbroken toes to bar, right? I'm like, hey, if you can't do a single toes to bar, do this. If you can do a couple, do this. So I always gear it towards, I think, the more general population. I think that's what makes them a little bit more popular and sought after than some of the higher level videos that people make.
That's also your avatar, like your niche.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
was it always your niche? Did you start with that in mind? And then
Yes. Yeah.
meaning, did you start making the videos because you want to help people in the open, or was it for early on a strategy that this is my niche, I'm going to help people RX every workout, and then I'm going to get them traction, like building up to that?
Yeah, I think from the get-go, my strategy or my thought process was having run a CrossFit gym. I owned a CrossFit gym before I started WOD Prep. And having done that, I realized that like where I was best in my coaching was helping people learn the skills that they weren't able to do. So like I can't do a ring muscle up. I help them a little bit, they can do a ring muscle up. I can't do double unders. I help them a little bit, they can do double unders. And I realized that the helping people go from scaled to RX was like that's where I felt like I had my best level of coaching. I've never claimed to be a coach that could help a CrossFit Games athlete learn how to snatch 5 more kilograms on their 120 kilogram snatch. Like I that's not me. That's not who I am. I'm able to help the average, and when I say average, I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just like help like people who aren't professional athletes
Yeah.
be able to do things a little bit better. So I think from the get-go, that was my niche is how can I help more people RX more workouts? Because it's fun to RX workouts. Like I remember in my journey, there were a few movements that were preventing me from being able to go to the gym every day and be like, yep, I can do it all. Right. It was some of it was strength. Double unders were another big one, handstand walks, things like that, where it's like I couldn't do them, but I wanted to do them because once I could do them, I could RX everything. And that I think from the very beginning was my avatar. I might not have even defined it, but now that is our avatar. Is like we help athletes go from scaled to RX by learning skills and increasing mobility and strength, and that's what we do.
So that and masters, right? So the master is a niche within the niche, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the masters part was really just a product of the types of people who are our main customers. Like when I started selling courses and when I started getting feedback when it was just me, I realized I'm like I specifically remember one of my first testimonials was a guy, his name was Tom, and he came to me and he's like, I'm 59 years old and I really want a muscle up before my 60th birthday. And he bought my Muscle Up Madness
Yeah.
online course, and we got him his first ring muscle up before his 60th birthday. And then after that, he ended up going to the CrossFit Games like 5 years in a row
Yeah.
and can now do like at 66 or whatever age he is now, he can do like lots of unbroken muscle ups, which is pretty awesome to see. So when I started noticing that, where it's like most of these customers coming to me with testimonials or like, hey, I'm X years old and I really need help with this.
Yeah.
I realized I'm like, all of these people are masters athletes. So that's what kind of got us into the master space. It was not something that was planned. It was just like,
Yeah.
oh, whoa.
Our
Almost all of my
customers.
best
Yeah.
customers and all these people who are, you know, making it to the CrossFit Games and saying that WOD Prep helped them, they're all masters athletes.
Yeah.
And that was where we really started being like, hey, we should probably focus on masters for a while and really make sure that we have great products that are geared towards masters
Yeah.
athletes. So when we initially launched that programming, the daily programming that I talked about, the only product we launched to start was WOD Prep Masters. That's all it was masters focused daily programming. And now that's still our most followed track, but now we have, something for everyone. But back then it was just like, hey, we have a niche in the masters division that we didn't even know about. Let's go after that and let's try to give them what they want.
Well, reverse engineering that, now that we know that the masters are a really cool niche, it actually makes perfect sense because they have mostly more time than the other athletes because their workload's usually lower when they get to 50 or 60.
Yep.
The job doesn't take that much time, so they have more time to use up the skills and to train. They have usually more money because they have accumulated, so they have
Sure. Yep.
so more money, more time, more. They don't have anything else to do, so it makes perfect sense that it would be a niche. In Portugal, we have like I'm sure all over the world those competitions where one of the CrossFit gyms promotes the competition to everybody, or some organizer promotes the competition, and the masters division is growing like crazy because all of the guys that started doing CrossFit like 13 years ago, because in Portugal the sport is just 13 or 14 years. The first CrossFit gym opened in 2013 in Portugal, so it's like 11 years. And so the guys that started doing this started like 12 or 13, 2 or 3 years previous, and they now have 35, 40, 45. So they want to keep going, but they don't want to compete with the 20-year-olds. They just want to compete with themselves. So it's really nice to figure that out. And when you were starting WOD Prep, did you know that it would become this? Did you know that it would be online courses? What were you trying to do? What was your like
vision.
big goal with vision with WOD Prep?
So I think right from the beginning, I basically saw a couple other businesses that were doing what I thought was incredible work in other niches. And I was like, I think I can do that with WOD Prep. I think I can do a business like they are doing in the CrossFit space. And that was one of them was a guy who he started I Love Basketball is what it was called. And it was basically this huge YouTube channel that taught kids how to get better at basketball so they could make their high school team and, eventually make it to college and play basketball. I mean, and I resonated with it because when I was in middle school, when I was in elementary and middle school and even high school, it was like, I am destined to be an NBA basketball player. And I was pretty good, actually. I played at a pretty high level, and a few of my teammates over the years made it to the NBA, actually, which, so I could ball, but I'm only 5'9" and not any taller than that. And can't quite jump out of the gym like other 5'9" NBA players. So
white guys can jump.
Yeah. They can't. They can't. I could jump. I could jump pretty good, but not
Yeah,
as good as I need to.
yeah,
But anyway, so when I saw I Love Basketball, what they did was they had this big YouTube channel where they would teach people like little skills and drills and stuff like that. But then it would always lead to sign up for our email list. We'll give you a free guide. And then on the email list, they would sell them full training packages of how to play basketball. That was it. And when I saw that, I was like, I can do that. Like I can do that with CrossFit. Like I can do that with, I can make a bunch of videos to teach people various skills and tips and stuff like that. And then I can make some free guides to encourage people to sign up for my email list. And then I can make paid courses. I think this will work. And that's what I did was I just modeled the original business off of that idea and it worked. And since then it's expanded and we've done a lot of other things, but that was the original plan from the get-go. And I think one of the most important things that I did when I started was I see a lot of people even now like trying to, grow their social media and all they focus on is growing their social media. They're like, we need more followers. That's all they want is more followers, more engagement, more clicks. But that's so it's so
random.
fleeting, right? Yeah, it's unpredictable. The algorithms change all the time. One time you're loved, like I look today and right now we have 3.4 million views over the last 30 days on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm like, whoa, where did that happen? But just a few weeks ago, we had like 720,000 views, right? So it's just like, it just fluctuates so much.
Yeah,
And what I realized, the biggest thing I did early on was I built my email list. And it was like every video that I would release, I'd always have some sort of call to action to give them a reason to join my email list. And it
yeah,
wasn't just like, hey, sign up for my newsletter, right? No one wants that. No one wants an email newsletter,
yeah,
but people do want more free training guides.
yeah,
So right from the very, very beginning, I think even video one, it was like, sign up for this thing and I'll send it to you for free. And that was then signing up for my email list. And that was, I think, the best move that we made as a business was growing the email list from the very beginning. And then it, grew and grew and grew. And now we've, for a while now, we've kind of hovered around that 100,000 person mark because once you reach that, there's only so many CrossFitters in the world. And, as time goes on, people get disinterested. So they unsubscribe and then we get new subscribers, but it's kind of just hovers around that,
yeah, yeah.
That 100,000 person mark. And I think that was one of the most important things that we did for business was not rely on social media to sell. It was use the email list to sell, but social media was just a way to get more leads to the email list.
Yeah. The money's in the list, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But anymore now admittedly it's way, way harder to sell via email than it used to be. Like back in the day,
Yeah.
I remember in 2016, I sent one email to launch a new product that we had, and I sold $60,000 worth of that product. One email. That was it. And that was when my email list was, I think, only like maybe 25,000 people back then. And it was just one email, boom, sent it, and then it sold out immediately, like within a few hours. And I could do it seems like if I tried to do the exact same thing with a now 100,000 person email list, I'm going to make a fraction of that. So it
Yeah.
just seems like I think the market is more saturated. People are more like, they're more like, I don't need this anymore. Or maybe my theory is it's also potentially a product of like, now so many people have purchased online courses in the past and they're like, I never used it. I don't need this. I
Yeah.
think the market is like matured in a way where it's like they're more sensitive to email selling or they're just less interested in something online. They'd rather do stuff in person because, there's too much things online. It's maybe a mix, or maybe I'm just making excuses, but it has been harder to sell via email, but it still is a great selling tool. And we still get a lot of great customers, including yourself, probably from our email sequence that we sent out after the open. But that being said, it is a lot harder anymore.
Well, yeah, it was one of those opportunities because you have provided me with so much value over the years that I have already decided that this was the year that I was going to buy Wild Prep Academy.
Yeah.
And I traded some emails with people on your team saying, is it going to be a promotion after the open? Because it was really just before the open, like it was early
Yeah.
February. I'm not saying, well, I'm if it's going to be a promotion after the Open, I'm going to wait there because
Sure. Sure.
and they were telling me we're not sure, but well,
Yeah.
okay. And then,
Yeah.
but you did a whole sequence, like a full blown launch
Hmm.
after the Open, not just an email.
Right.
Did you find out that even with because it was not never live, right? So it was pre-recorded videos,
Hmm.
like a video sales letter divided into 4 parts, where you were
Correct.
going to make your offer on the Wild Prep Academy and
Yep.
you were building up. Did you found that it had interesting results? Did you get disappointed? Did you see, oh, if I do this, because I was looking at the story arc and then the
Hmm.
journey, and you were taking people through the pains and to getting to know that they were and providing value and
Hmm.
opening loops for the next video. So you
Yep.
were you were checking all the marks. No, you
Yep.
did your homework and you were checking all the marks
Yep.
to make
Yep.
it interesting. Did the results satisfy you?
It was. So the reason we did that 3 part, or I guess it was a 4 part video series, it's very much it's basically the not the exact script, but the Jeff Walker product
Yeah,
launch sequence.
product launch.
That's one of my favorite books that I read
Yeah,
probably over a decade ago now. And I realized, our theory going into the Open was just like, man, our email launches just aren't going as well. Maybe people just don't want to read the long form emails anymore as much as they used to. Let's get back to our roots and let's just focus on doing like exactly what you said, like a video launch, a video sales letter where we spread it out over a few videos and we go that route. And it was kind of that was our hypothesis, was if we did more video based selling and made videos. I shot those videos like right before they were released, to make sure that they were very relevant and they included what happened in the Open and they were
yeah,
really valid. And it did really well. It definitely improved our launch from the year before, because the year previous we did the same thing, but it was just
yeah,
mainly email based. And
yeah,
this time I was like, let's get social media involved. Let's create some more video assets to go with this. And it definitely improved our launch numbers. It didn't get it back to the good old days. Like
yeah,
there was one in I want to say 2018, maybe the first time that we released Wad Prep Academy after the Open. That was $100,000 in a week, and it wasn't anywhere near that. So we definitely are still seeing like either our email list has older subscribers that have already been exposed to the offer. My theory is just like the industry has changed. Like less people want to buy online courses. I think that's just like maybe the industry, or it could be less people in CrossFit are obsessed with it and is interested in RXing more things. I don't know what the theory
yeah,
is, or I don't know what the answer is. I have a lot of theories. So it wasn't nearly as good as the first time we launched Wad Prep
yeah,
Academy, but it definitely improved over the previous couple of years, and that showed me that the using the video assets to do a true like video sales letter spread out over the course of a week or two, that
yeah,
did help. And that's why we've done that for a couple other let's
yeah,
like we launched a program called Raw Strength, and that
yeah,
was like a brand new training course, and we did that and the results were really solid because we did the same thing. We made a nice video sales letter with good supporting emails to go with it, did a lot of customer research, had testimonials to go with it, and it was a pretty successful launch. But still, it's I wish I had the email list I have now back in the good old days of when I could just send one email and make $60,000. It would have been we would have been able to make quite a bit of profit, but it is what it is. It's the industry now, and our goal is to always keep modifying our offers and making new things and repackaging old things to make them
yeah,
feel new, and just trying to always stay ahead of the curve, because if you're not growing and you're not adjusting your strategy, then it's really easy to just shrivel up and die. And that's something that we're always afraid of, and we're always trying to find ways to keep the business growing even despite uncertainty in the marketplace.
yeah. Well, one of those, I'm in digital marketing mentorship with like a relevant guy here in Portugal that has connections to all of those Jeff Walkers, Frank
Mm-hmm.
Kearns, all of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that he says about the first launch is that when you do have like provided a lot of value, the first launch, you have something that is called, you are serving the repressed demand that people wanted to buy, but they didn't have anything to buy from you. So the
Right.
first launch is always like, I'm gonna give you money because you are so cool over all these years, and then
Right.
I want to buy something from you. And then the other launches, you need to work for it. you
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
you need to start building again. Have you ever thought of doing like webinars and like live launches and those types of stuff? Is it, do you think that it adapts to your niche or?
Yeah, I think I have a lot of friends and mentors that have definitely done really well with the webinar launch series. We've tried it a few times. Like there's been several products, I'd say probably five or six where we basically kicked off the launch with a webinar.
Okay.
And the results just like weren't that good, right? And it could just be because I wasn't as much a student of the game and I'm not, trying to funnel hack and make the perfect webinar because I don't know, there's just so many of the gurus out there that just do the most cringy things. And I'm like, even if it means making less money, I'm just not gonna claim to have. Oh, tried. Sorry. Excuse. Bless me.
Yeah.
So what I was saying is there's there's like so many gurus out there that, have all these secret hacks for how to run the perfect webinar. And,
Yeah.
I've been through them and I'm just like, this is just the cringiest thing I've ever seen. Like, for me, I'm like, hey, even if it means making less money,
Yeah.
I want to do something that like I'm proud of and not feel so like cringy about it.
Yeah.
So that's probably left a lot of money on the table for us. But when I have run webinars like the way that I would want to run them, it was always just like, meh, it kind of worked, but like
Yeah.
not as well as the actual like making more professional videos and doing it that way. Because the webinar, you have a couple factors against you. It's like getting everyone to show up at the same time in the same place at a specific time.
Yeah.
And then I do know some people that like evergreen their webinars and they have, they make it seem like you're there live, but
Yeah.
you're not actually there live. That drives me insane. So I
Yeah.
just like, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I don't care if it works. I'm not doing that. I don't want to lie to people because it's like, if it's one thing to, in your marketing, I'm a big believer of like, we promise a lot, but we try to deliver even more. And I
Yeah.
think there's just so many people that make a lot of money out there just churning and burning customers. So they promise a lot, they don't deliver, but they made a lot of money and then they can go get more people. And it's just
Yeah.
like in our small niche of CrossFit, it's like if you have a reputation for just like over promising and under delivering, it's gonna
Yeah.
eventually bite you in the long run, even
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
make a lot of money in the short term. So
Yeah.
that's kind of been my stance on a lot of the hacks and tactics for, especially the evergreen webinar style of things. But
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a way that we can do it ethically and make it work. But also just like running webinars is hard. It's just like something where I'm so much better at. I mean, I can do things live and like all those YouTube videos. I'm not going
Yeah.
off of a script. I just wing it and
Yeah.
coach like I'm coaching a normal person. Just do it up with a video camera. But there's just something that I think we're a lot more well suited to that than we are the whole live webinar hosting thing. So
Yeah.
that's why we've tended to stick with that.
Where do you geek out now most of the time? Is it in training? Is it in the business management side? Is it in the digital marketing? Where do you spend your study time?
Yeah.
Where do you invest your time?
So I used to, like back when I was first starting WOD Prep, it was very much I was a student of the digital marketing game. I was
Yeah.
reading every digital marketing book. I was taking every single online course. I had mentors. I was like in mastermind groups. I was like a sponge. I was like, I wanted all like the digital marketing stuff. And I had these notebooks filled with ideas and funnels and launches and strategies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then as the years kind of went on, I just like it just slowly but surely, I just stopped being as interested in, the latest hack, the latest funnel that's working, the
Yeah.
latest, $1 million secret, and I just like got so desensitized to it. So then I probably became more of a student of the management game where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, rather than trying to do all this myself, how can I just build a really good team that's very competent and hire people? So I did that for a while where it was just like, I'm just going to hire a lot of really good people and they're going to do a lot of the stuff that I'm not as good at. And that's what now I have a team that's, I think it's 13 or 14 people spread out all over the world. And we work really well together. They do a great job and, they crush it and
Yeah.
I'm about to go into the woods for a month to go hunting. I'll be literally I will not have a cell phone connection for an entire month. And I know that when I come back in October, everything will be fine. They probably made more money than they do when I'm here, like,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
very proud of that I was able to build a team like that. And really it's just because I hired some really great people and I had an awesome email list. And usually that's how I hire people is just through my email list and
Yeah.
just all these
I've received
amazing.
a couple of those emails over the years. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like there's just amazing people out there that really, love WordPress as a brand and they want to work remotely and I pay well and we make it happen.
Yeah.
So anymore, like I'll admit, like now that I'm 11 plus years into WordPress and maybe 15 plus years just into entrepreneurship in general. Now I really where I spend all my study time is like this is a bad answer from an entrepreneurial standpoint, but like where I spend all of my study time and free time is
Yeah.
hobbies. Like I just love playing. Like, for me it's hunting, fishing, tactical games, which is like shooting and CrossFit mixed together. And
Yeah.
like for me, that's where I spend all my time is like
Yeah.
is the business operates well, it operates smoothly. I'm involved and still making sure that I'm making on the right strategic decisions and putting
Yeah.
the right people in the right places. But it's kind of self-managed and it does a good job. And I definitely probably should focus more on the being a student of the entrepreneurship game. Like this evening, I have a mastermind call. It's a mastermind business group that I've been in for, I mean, probably 6 years, 7 years now. And every time I show up to the call, they're like, did you see so and so's new funnel with blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, I don't even know who that guy is anymore. Like I used to be the guy that's like was on top of everything. And now I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know who that guy is and I don't really care. Like it's just like I'm so I maybe jaded or bored with the industry.
Yeah.
So maybe one day if I have a new idea that comes into my head where I'm like, oh, I really want to start a business in this sector or
Yeah.
with this angle. I'm sure that'll get my entrepreneurial like gears going, but now I'm much less on the trying to be a student of entrepreneurship and always be on the cutting edge to now it's just like it's more of like business is maybe a little for lack of a better word like boring and
Yeah.
predictable, but it produces profit, it employs great people that supports their family and we have really happy customers and I'm happy with that even if I'm not as all in and stoked and excited about launching the next greatest thing. I try to make sure that I'm still there and present and making sure that the business continues to grow and be
Yeah.
successful. And I also leave space for you know if I get a good idea or if something plants in my head, I know that I'll have the capacity, the time to really go all in on it. So that's kind of where I am right now.
Yeah. Well, I think it makes sense. I'm not a fan of you. You have to study or you have to grow the business. If the business is at a level that keeps you happy, that everybody is happy, then a boring business it's usually great because it makes money. It creates problems. So boring is actually usually pretty good in business.
Right.
But
And
yeah,
that's something that I think as an entrepreneur, a lot of people a lot of people think entrepreneurship, they think serial entrepreneur. They're always getting bored. They're always launching new things. And you have like the Elon Musk, right? He's like, oh, like let's go solve space exploration. And then let's
Yeah.
like create electric cars and like let's link brains together and let's it's just like
Yeah.
what he just and he thinks at a different level.
Yeah.
But I've seen with so many entrepreneurs that like I've been in circles with, and I was probably one of those people.
Yeah.
It's always the next milestone. It's always that, like they're never satisfied, which is one way to live. But like,
It's the rush.
I mean,
Yeah.
you have like, I mean, and he's a great mentor and he's taught a lot of people a lot of things, but you have like, the new hot guy is Hermosi, Alex Hermosi. And he's actually like a friend of a friend, but
Yeah.
but he's probably not a friend of a friend anymore because he came out with a video the other day where he's like, all of my like I'm only friends and only hang out with people who are making more than $100 million because, or more than $500 million because I make $100 million. And if I surround myself with people who make $500 million, then I'll be at their level. And then and I'm just like, maybe 10 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, that's a great. And now that I see that, I'm like, that is disgusting. And I never, ever want to live my life like that.
Yeah.
Like that repulses me so much. And it makes me not want to be an entrepreneur. Which is like it's like I get aggressive against that because I hate that way of thinking because you're living your life on a treadmill where you'll never be satisfied. And I've seen people in my business groups where it's like they were like making $100,000 a year and the goal was to make $500K a year, and then they did it, and then they were like, now I need to get to 7 figures, and they did it, and it's like now I need 8 figures, and there's and they did it, and now it's like I need $100 million before I'm happy, and they're just never happy, and they're just always surrounding themselves with people who are they're just trying to be like status people where it's like, oh, that guy's rich, I'm going to be friends with him, like, and that disgusts me. Right? So like all of my best friends are like people I hunt and fish with, and like I literally do not care how much money they make, and we are friends for friends' sake because I like being around them, not because I'm using them to learn about how to make more money. And so like I'm sure there's probably some mindsets in there that like I'm sure there's a lot of healthy ways to live life where you're always growing and stuff like that. But for me, once we kind of got to the 7-figure mark, which everyone gets all excited about, like once we made our first $1 million year of revenue, I was like, all right, this didn't feel any different than when we made $700,000, right? In fact, we're probably less profitable now.
Sometimes
so who cares?
Happens,
like who cares? This is stupid. I'm never running this hamster wheel ever again. If we make enough money, like as long as we make enough money to feed our people and outpace inflation, and like I'd love to be growing, but I'm not going to grow for growth's sake because I want to like flex and say I made X amount of money this year. That's all just BS. And for me, it's like if the business facilitates the life I want to live, and the business facilitates the life my employees want to live, and I can give them, and their families the money that they need to live. Like I am not the highest paid person on my team because like I don't need to be, right? Like at some point, maybe if I sell the business, then yeah, I have 100% equity in the business.
Yeah.
And yes, I still make plenty of money to do the things that I love. But like there's people in my business that are working 7 times harder than I am, and I pay them like it, and to me, that's a good business because our job satisfaction is high. Like when we do anonymous surveys on the team, they love working for WODPrep. And as long as people love working for WODPrep and our customers are really, really happy and they keep coming back for more, that to me is a well-run business. And I don't need to chase the Alex Hermosis of the world that want to be billionaires, right? That to me is not what I want to be. And I'd rather play now and later than work all day, every day now for the maybe being able to play later. So I guess you could call it WODPrep is more of a lifestyle business that feeds people and feeds families than it is a business that's some greater strategy of my expanding market portfolio, So that's my take on it. That's my rant. I get pretty ranty when it comes to entrepreneurship spaces.
Yeah, no, I think the main thing that you share that a lot of people that are entrepreneurs lack is the knowing what you want and the knowing the lifestyle that you want to have. Because I think that most of the time this constant running to get to the next piece of cheese that's on the next door is some sort of mechanism that keeps me moving, because maybe then that's the thing that I want. And most of the times it's because they don't actually know what they want. They don't know
exactly.
Like so yeah, I think that's a really mature way to look at business. And also, wanting $1 billion is a very mature way if that's what you want.
Sure, exactly. And again, like
your boat.
right, like and something to be clear about is like, just because that's not for me and it disgusts me, for other people, if that's truly what they want, then like, hey, go after it. But where I find maybe the issue, or where I find frustration in the entrepreneurship circles, is people who have a certain level of, operating their lives and richness and wealth and stuff like that, that like try to make it seem like you should be doing this too, because this is better than where you are. Well, and I think it's easy to get caught in the trap as an entrepreneur to be like, oh, because this person says it, like it must be true, and I need to chase after that. Yeah. And I think it's just, but like you said,
you can understand that mindset better than anyone, because CrossFitters have that mindset. You should do CrossFit, and if you're not doing CrossFit, you're
right. And actually, that's for me. Believe it or not, like that's not my. And it's probably why it bleeds over to my entrepreneurism as well. Is like, I don't care if people do CrossFit. For me personally, CrossFit was the only thing that kept me in the gym consistently, because I would get bored of everything else, right? I always would get bored of bodybuilding. It's like, same thing every day. Like, this is stupid. But once I added the competitiveness of CrossFit and it's how it's constantly varied, and there's all these new, and there's a way to compete and test yourself, I was hooked. And that's why now I'm confident. Now I've been doing CrossFit for like 17 years. Like, I am way fitter now than if I never found CrossFit and I did the bodybuilding stuff. Like there's just no way I wouldn't have had the same consistency. Yeah. So for me, when I'm telling people, I'm like, hey, the best kind of fitness in the world is the kind of fitness that you are going to do consistently multiple times per week. Yeah. Whatever that is. It could be Zumba, yoga, pickle, whatever. But it probably helps for most people if there's some strength elements to it, because I think a lot of fitness programs lack strength development. And then especially for women, if you're not strength training, you're going to have bad bone density, and things are going to, there's going to be problems later in life. Yeah. And strength is one of the #1 indicators of longevity. So probably should have some strength in there. So, but whatever's going to keep you consistent. And then what I tell people is like, CrossFit, I tried pretty much all of them. CrossFit was the only thing that kept me consistent. So I suggest trying it out, see if you like it. And if you hate it, then it's not the right thing for you. But the amount of people who I've convinced to try it, that were like, I'm CrossFit, no way, that's not for me. Yeah. And they try it. And then 2 years later, they're coaches, with their level 1s and level 2s. They want to open their own gym. Like, it's amazing to watch the development for people who don't think it's for them. And then it happens to be exactly for them. So,
how I noticed, maybe just my feeling, but I've noticed that maybe because of the development of the CrossFit brand, maybe because there were, my feeling was that at some point you didn't identify as much as before with CrossFit as a brand, and in your videos you were more shy to use the expression. You used a lot of times, you started using the expression of functional training. I've noticed a shift. I'm not sure when, but I noticed something like that. It was just my feeling. Did you found out that there was something about the brand that was not aligned with your values?
No, it was more so CrossFit is a trademark, and they attack anyone that uses their trademark because they have to protect the trademark. So there's been multiple times in the history of WOD Prep where CrossFit has been like actively like coming after us legally. They haven't sued us or anything like that, because I hope they know that I'm a positive influence on their brand as well. But there's been just multiple times where it's like, all right, we're under we're under the scope of CrossFit, and they're like, you can't say our trademark. You have to, like stop saying CrossFit. So that's probably what you've seen
Yeah.
is like, and then there's also, there was the time in 2020 where every single gym on earth seemed to be de-affiliating, and
Yeah.
there's just been a lot of stuff at the corporate level that's made the brand of CrossFit seem iffy. I've always been a supporter of it, and I want the brand to grow. Not even selfishly, yeah, it helps WOD Prep grow. But
Yeah.
even if it didn't, I think it saves a lot of lives, and it's an absolutely outstanding methodology that have gone through some leadership struggles and company structure struggles, and it's just been they've had some ups and downs. And usually when I'm saying, if you're a functional fitness athlete,
Yeah.
it's just because it's like if I say the word CrossFit, they're gonna like yell at me, and I don't want to be yelled at. So that's really
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But CrossFit is kind of like the constantly varied functional movement performed at a high intensity. That whatever you want to call it, CrossFit functional fitness, like that's what I really stand behind and believe. And that's the people who we're trying to help. Whether it's the garage gym athlete that just wants to stay fit and they don't even do the open, we want to help them, or it's the person who goes to a CrossFit gym and is obsessed with their open score, we want to help them too.
Yeah. Well, I've always noticed like it's a big difference. Or it's like the NBA now. You see people shooting hoops in the streets, and they are not NBA players. So the CrossFit Games athletes are not CrossFit guys and girls.
Right.
They're on a different level. So
Yep.
and the idea behind that competition is to test the fittest, or at least in those categories, the fittest on earth.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to me, and that the way they are doing those tests is not aligned with the overall arch of CrossFit thinking and promoting health and doing all of those sorts. And my opinion is not just about the latest tragedy of Lazar Dukic, but overall there were some things that a lot of people found to be sketchy. Like they are doing this amount of workouts and this amount of days with this amount of loads, and well, something's bound to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the bottom. I mean, it's CrossFit as a sport is different than CrossFit as a methodology.
Yeah.
So for instance, like, I mean, I guess in another example is like running,
Yeah.
okay, is a good thing for your health. Running ultra marathons professionally is probably not a good thing for your health, right? We're not necessarily built to run 100 miles consistently. So the idea of like the CrossFit Games needing to look like and attract people to just like do CrossFit, I think is maybe a silly notion. It's like when if the CrossFit Games was designed to help people be healthier and become stronger and improve their agility and other tests of fitness, it would look totally different, but it wouldn't determine anything. It would just be like, yeah, now you guys are healthier. There'd be a few workouts, everybody high five. But like the CrossFit Games is designed to test the fittest on earth, which is by definition needs to go through an absolutely ridiculously grueling and diverse test that would be ridiculous for the average human being. But that's why it's like it's sad to see people try to connect those dots, because it's two totally different things. You have sport, and then you have optimal wellness. Optimal wellness is like work out for an hour a day, 3 days on, 1 day off. That's good. But the sport is totally different from that. They're not working out for an hour, 3 days per week, 1 day off. It's totally different. So it's like they're just two different divisions, and there really shouldn't be any carryover because it's just two totally different things, right? If we're trying to, by definition, trying to determine the fittest on earth, that series of tests and qualifications is so far different than the methodology of CrossFit, which is trying to make the world healthier and happier, and make everyone fitter, which is a totally different modality than becoming the fittest athlete on earth, right? So those are just two different things. So I think it's hard for them to be like, hey, the CrossFit games are on TV, and then people look at that and they're like, I'm not doing CrossFit, that's crazy. But it's sad, because when people make that connection, it's like, it's not that. Like my aunt, who is 63 years old, she goes to CrossFit 5 days a week and is so much healthier for it. Yeah, but she's not training to go to the games, right? It's two totally different things.
Well, yeah, it's sometimes it's the only thing that people see about CrossFit. Is like, if people watch NFL and say, well, I'm not going to play flag football because the football is getting the people are getting smashed. Yeah, well, yeah, it's hard for them to do the distinction between one and the other. Mm-hmm. As a business owner, what do you feel how do you feel that CrossFit dealt with this whole situation, this whole tragedy? In your opinion, should they have stopped the games? Should they continue? And in the days after, we haven't seen much happening. Like, just an announcement saying that, well, we are looking into things. But do you feel that they are dealing with this properly? As a businessman, do you think, well, if I were the CEO, I would have done some things differently?
Yeah. So I admittedly, like, I have not watched or digested most of the pieces of content that have been released by them or by other people analyzing everything. So this opinion is very much from a very much outsider looking in.
Yeah.
I think so. Number one is I'll do a couple things. So, like, let's start at the specific event. Okay, so the event was a tragedy. People obviously are like, how could this have happened? It shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
But it did. And it's horrible. Any way you look at it, it's horrible, right? But as an example, people are like, how could this possibly have happened? This is the greatest failure of all time. The unfortunate thing is, like, mistakes happen.
Yeah.
And this is not to get political at all, but, like, think about what happened the month before, right? A shooter, was able to get on the roof of a building within 200 yards of Donald Trump and get a shot off. And if he was half an inch, he would have killed a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, we're supposed to have the best protectors in the entire world protecting him. How could this have happened? Massive failures, right? Occurred to lead to that. But if you use that as an example, a very sad and tragic example, because people died as well, is like, it happens. Like, that's the saddest thing on earth, is even with the best possible prevention mechanisms, like, you have really good people on the Secret Service, even though they were there, they didn't prevent what happened. And it's the same thing, like, that's why I say it's a bad analogy, because it's just sad all the way around. But, like, the unfortunate thing is, like, it can happen, and it did happen to CrossFit. Even if they had all of these protection mechanisms in place, it still could have happened, because it happens in all open water swimming events. Like, this is a number that I'm making up, but it was something like, in Ironmans specifically, there have been like dozens, maybe even hundreds of deaths in the last decade in Ironmans, right? Like, it happens in open water swimming. Obviously, the optics of looking into it are really bad, because, like, there were only like 2 people on paddle boards, and what were they doing? Like, how did they not see this, right? The optics of it are all bad, but the reality of, like, statistically speaking, it's dangerous, and things can happen regardless of how many helpers and spotters you have. So that's really sad, right? So that's like that's my take on like how could this happen? And the outrage is like
Yeah.
it happens. And yes, you have every right to be mad and say, how could this happen? But the bottom line is it happens. It happened to literally the most famous person on the planet.
Yeah.
Was someone almost assassinated them, right? And he was supposed to have the best protection in the world.
Yeah.
So these kind of crazy things happen.
Yeah.
And then in terms of CrossFit's response to it, right? Continuing the games, not continuing the games. Super touchy subject. All like my only take on this is if an athlete died in the Olympics, would the Olympics have gone on? Yes, right? 100%. There's no
Yeah.
way they're stopping the Olympics. They would have gone on. Okay. CrossFit is a much smaller event, much more tight knit community. But as a professional organization trying to determine the fittest on earth, the sad, insensitive reality is like you can't cancel the thing that deems the champion of the earth, which is what the Olympics is,
Yeah.
because of one tragedy and one horrible mistake, right? And I will say, like, it was a mistake. It was a tragedy. It did seem like it was preventable and things could have been done much better, right? But the fact of the matter is, like, for all the other athletes that did want to compete, right? There was obviously lots of athletes that are like, this is ridiculous. We shouldn't be competing. And they backed out and they had every right to. Totally. I respect the heck out of those athletes that did that, right? They were like, I don't care about the money. I don't care about the pride. I'm out, right? I can't do it. That's fine. But also, I also don't fault the athletes that are like, hey, I worked my butt off to get here. I trained all year.
Of the same
This is
respect.
horrible. I'm heartbroken. But, like as a fellow competitor, my fellow competitor died. I feel like maybe he would say compete. Like it would be even more of a tragedy if the entire sport was canceled because of my death. We don't know because he's not here to say it.
Yeah,
So super touchy subject. I don't know what the right move is, but like my gut from the get-go was like they're going to keep going because if this happened at the Olympics, even if I know this is crazy, but like even if multiple people died at the Olympics, they would have kept going. It's just like that's
well, in
the fact
Munich,
of what happens.
in Munich, when there were the terrorist attacks, they kept the games going. There were multiple deaths with the terrorist attack, like
right.
Olympic Village. Yeah,
right.
And what do you feel about the response after? Because I'm with you all the way. In both of these subjects, is my feelings are the same.
Yeah.
What do you think about the response after the war? So
yeah,
we got through the games. It's over, and now we have these days and maybe week or something like that.
Yeah.
More than a week of nothing.
Yeah. So one thing I will say is like before I get into that is like, while I have these opinions and stuff like that, like I'm also like extremely like I don't think anyone is wrong, even if they have the polar opposite opinions of me. Like when it comes to this topic, I'm like, hey, like I understand and I can totally see how you think that way. So I'm on board with all the opinions. So I'm not definitely here trying to say like you're wrong if you think anything different.
Yeah.
So from a business standpoint, I guess, and again, I'm not super on the pulse of it, but basically my understanding is like it seems like CrossFit has been relatively silent in the wake of the tragedy, where people think that there should be more of them basically commenting on it, process basically like there's been a radio silence from CrossFit HQ. Is that right? Okay.
Well, almost. I think it was one announcement from the CEO saying something like, "We are looking into it." And
so
like that.
So the reason, like, and this is, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not
I don't know. Reason, right? So,
but my thought, my prediction is they are staying silent because anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. That's the United States legal
liability
system.
Issues.
Anything they say is negative right? It's right. Like no matter what they say,
Yeah.
it can and will be used against them in a court of law. The There's a very strong possibility there will be a massive wrongful death long lawsuit of some sort.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be criminal
Probably.
charges,
Yeah.
like right,
Probably.
like something is going to happen. They are in a their biggest ever legal um, battle that is going to occur.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, when it comes to what will take place in the future, which is absolutely some sort of lawsuit or legal battle,
Yeah.
there is nothing that would be positive at all if they make any statement other than just we are looking into it.
Yeah.
Because if they came out, even if they know 100%, wow, we really messed up, we feel horrible, we should have had more people in the water, and we are deeply, deeply saddened that we made a critical error and we are sorry, right? Which is probably how they feel and all that. If they say that, then that
Yeah.
is an admission of guilt, and they will then be sued for even more money.
Yeah.
And it's just the nature of what's going on. So while the optics are bad and people are like, what? How are they not coming out and doing more? The reality is this is just like they're in a legal battle, and literally they have lawyers telling them, do not say anything other
Yeah.
than we are looking into it. And that's so the unfortunate thing is like I don't think you can fault the company for trying to keep the company alive. So that's like the
Yeah. I
sad
think
reality.
they're in a bit of the predicament because not saying anything is
Yes.
is growing the community even further apart from them, and the gym owners that are the affiliating and all of that stuff. But saying anything can open them to an even more liable to
Yeah.
lawsuits and all of that. That's definitely going to happen. I'm sure
Yeah.
that either it's the like the district attorney or something figure like that,
Right.
or the Dikic family,
It's
or
just like you just
yeah.
there's no positive way forward. And at this point, they're trying to do damage control. And with the legal actions that will take place, damage control is simply not saying anything. And that's the sad reality of it. So for me personally, I'm not saying CrossFit as an organization isn't at fault. I'm definitely not saying that, but I'm personally not I'm not
Yeah.
outraged by the fact that they haven't said
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
because if I were in the similar situation with WOD Prep and I was like, my lawyers were like, do not say anything, don't say anything, I wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
I would listen to them. So
Yeah.
for me, I'm not outraged by that fact. I'm definitely, I trust in the justice system and the investigations that I hope will take place
Yeah, of course.
will lead to a conclusion of what happened and
Was
and who is culpable or at least partly responsible for the lack of safety. I mean, just the fact that he went down and wasn't recovered for an hour plus, that shows like it. This would be a totally different.
Wrong.
Yeah, something went terribly wrong. This would be a totally different situation if he went down, was pulled out 3 minutes later, and was not resuscitated. Right. That's totally different. But this is the fact that we lost an athlete with the cameras rolling and spotters. It's a huge problem.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I think that they could do that didn't expose them a lot to those liabilities is the Dave Castro or something of that sort. Like he's the director of the game, so some high figure saying that I'm going to step down to make sure there is no interference from my part to the whole investigation. So I'm going to step out and let everything unfold, and some kind of gesture that without
Yeah.
without admitting anything, but making some kind, you know,
Yeah.
head,
And
some headless
the
roll. some,
again, like I think the fact of the matter is like even gestures like that
could be
uh,
interpreted
can be interpreted in the legal
an
system
admission of
as
guilt
admission of guilt,
of
right?
some sort. Yeah, yeah,
So literally, my again theory is
yeah, yeah. Of course.
everything. People are like, all right, we're all here, we're all intact, we're definitely screwed, for lack of a better word. Like there's a
Yeah,
huge problem, we messed up, but we can't say that. And none of you, no one who works for the company can say anything.
anything.
And we have to let the legal system do its thing. And as
Oh,
a company, we have to fight back so that we don't lose the entire company. Um, and this at the same time, like the people who are going to go for the lawsuit, they're going to try to go for as much as they can. And it's just like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just, this is the battle that's going to ensue. So like any action other than just sitting there in silence could be construed in the wrong way. And so
yeah,
that's my thought on it.
yeah. Of course.
Do I think that people will step down? Do I think there will be someone somewhere will be fired or step down? Or like, I think that's all going to happen. I
Yeah,
just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon
yeah,
until again, investigations are taking place. And
yeah.
there's, the issue is like, this is going to play out for a long time because these kinds of investigations and interviews and,
They take
like
a long time.
depositions and stuff like that, they take a long time, right? So
Yeah,
there's going to be interview, like, so it is going to be a long time. So everybody looking for immediate action now is going to be really
yeah,
angry, but it's just not going to happen.
yeah. Well, Ben, I'm not going to take any more of your time. You have been more than gracious with your time with this. I've loved talking with you for like an hour and a half almost that we are talking. So I thank you a lot for all your comments, all your ideas. It was really fun to get to know the man behind the camera. I love your videos, your I love your sense of humor that you put into the videos and with your personas, different personas that you that you interpret. So thank you very much for serving this community, for serving me, for providing value to so many people, and thank you for your time to us.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's been a fun conversation, and yeah, I appreciate you being willing to talk to me, and thanks for being a loyal WOD Prep customer. It
Yeah,
does mean the world to me that we're able to help you, and you're able to help us run a business that feeds a lot of people and provides as much value as we can.
yeah. Thank you. And if you ever come to Portugal, you're more than invited to meet my city. I'll show you around. And if you come in the right season, we have hunting also.
All
Not the
right.
not the kind of hunting that you have there, but mainly birds and hares and something like that. It could be arranged.
I'm sure I can make it work. I'm sure I can make it work. Portugal's on my list, and I will definitely make it out there at some point.
Okay, let us know. Thank you very much. Thank you
All
very much.
right. Thanks so much.